don't know why the women can't get it through their brains. This is not attractive. You get attention, but it's not attractive. And it's not long lasting. You're going to burn out. You're going to wear out. No one's going to want you. And you might say, oh, they don't care. Ha! At the end of the day, they actually do, or they wouldn't be going for all this attention and clout. Hi, welcome back to Far From Eden. Well, somebody's outdone our girl Lily Phillips. Remember her? The one that was gonna bed and have all that bedroom fun and hanky-panky with a record number of guys in 24 hours, right? And woohoo, she did it. And it was just the warm-up. So she could do 1,000. Like later, I guess it's coming up, right? Somebody beat her to it. Bonnie Blue is her name, which I have to say is gross too, because I doubt that's her real name. And even if it is, that's the name of the little girl from Gone with the Wind. That's the name of the little girl that was Rhett Butler's and Scarlett O'Hara's. And she was this precious little, sweet little girl. Unfortunately, came to an early demise. That's a whole other topic. But ew, right? Ew. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm too old and I'm like, maybe everyone's like, no, it's just a name. I don't know. It's gross. It's all gross. And yet they seem to think it's attractive. And it's not like it's just Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue. It's all these Only Fools chicks. Like, nasty. This whole idea of corn, because I can't say the real thing on the YouTube platform. This whole idea of taking corn and that degeneracy and trying to normalize it is astounding. And I'm so glad that their attempts to get this whole disgusting behavior normalized and even applauded, I don't think it's working. I don't think it's working on the guys, the masculine men, the men who can temper themselves, the men that go, no, I don't want to be a degenerate, you know? Now, simps are going to simp. What are you going to do? There's always going to be those guys. And I like that they're getting called out too. So the New York Post has an article on our lovely, lovely Bonnie Blue. And I have to give them some props for the headline because it's a play on words, I think. I don't think they did this by accident. But anyway, we're going to read a little bit about Bonnie Blue, and I'll let you know what I think. And I'm very glad that you guys are not celebrating this. I'm glad that you're shaming it, because that's exactly what we need. And that's something women listen to. They listen to shame. And if you think, no, they don't. Case in point, back when shame was part of our culture here in Christendom, the West, some people call it, this was not happening. It was never against the law, right? Well, I suppose adultery was against the law a bit, but you know what I'm saying? Like fornication and promiscuity wasn't illegal. So why weren't women participating in that kind of a thing? Because women are the gatekeepers of that kind of stuff. So what was keeping it all on lockdown? Why weren't they doing this earlier? Because other women would shame them. And as soon as we removed shame from society, this is what happened. So I say, bring it back. And I love that if the women won't do it, or not enough of us will, you guys, because they think they're going to get all good attention from you. And if we shame them, the women shame them, they think, oh, we're jealous or this, that, or the other. No way, man. I am not jealous of that. Gross. You are gross, gross. Anyways, Only Fools star slammed as revolting for betting 1,057 men in 12 hours. Quote, "This is so sad." Yeah, it is sad. And I get that's what some of the detractors are saying. It's sad. It's more than that. That's the train. There's a train track real close by, especially in the winter when there are no leaves on the trees. So I just call him Thomas, you know. All right, ready? When it comes to betting blokes, this blonde's on top. Well, she's not American. Neither one's the last one. Can't say that word. Hanky-pankying, bedroom funning strangers comes as second nature to notorious content creator Bonnie Blue, who claims to have just broken the world record for having hanky-panky with over 1,000 guys in less than 24 hours. Man, something to be proud of. I mean, heck, I was editor of the high school newspaper, you know. I thought that was something we're supposed to like try to do, you know? Of course I'm being silly, but like, ew, imagine having these goals. Okay, I'm gonna try to stop being so grossed out. If Body Blue has truly accomplished the freaky feat, she's successfully unseated Lisa Sparks, a Kentucky corn star who held the Guinness World Record for bumping uglies with 919 men in one day back in 2004. All right. Lisa Sparks. Isn't that the name of the, wasn't that the name of a stickers when I was a kid? Why are these all, notice? Bonnie Blue kid's name. Lisa Sparks, wasn't that the sticker company? Maybe it's a coincidence. All right. Okay, Body. Think about this. The author of this is not against her, yet called her Body, which means being Body is not an insult anymore. It's not a negative thing anymore. See what they do? They take something that used to be seen as negative, let's say, and they turn it into something just kind of spicy, exciting, interesting. And it's a trick. It's a trick to, they change language to change the way we think. If you haven't read 1984, or if you haven't read it in a while, may I suggest you do, because the idea of language changing because we think in words and how the overlords can basically control how you think by controlling the language, it does a great job of explaining that, and I think warning society of it. I think 1984 was a warning, not literature. All right. So apparently this Kentucky nasty did 919 men, and from the Bible Belt in the United States. If you're not familiar, if you're from somewhere else, the Bible Belt in the United States is what used to be known for heavily Christian ideals and Christian, societies where you wouldn't think that someone would do such a thing and come from there. You would think, if I said California, you'd be like, of course, California. Okay. Another word that used to be negative and they're turning it into something different. Blue's tawdry testimonial, a post-coital clip that clocked, what is this, Dr. Seuss? Nasty, gross Dr. Seuss is what this is. Blue's tawdry testimonial, a post-coital clip that clocked up over 1.5 million TikTok views, came with a cheeky caption reading, in part, quote, 1,057 wasn't too bad, suggesting that she had exceeded Sparks' milestone by more than 100 fellas. The Brit initially planned to bed 1,000 blokes before adding a couple of dozen extra notches to her metaphorical bedpost. Reps for the Vixen confirmed to the Sun she did 1,057 people. She has reps. Quote, as she hit 1,000, there were still 57 left in the queue who Bonnie wanted to pleasure before ending the 12-hour day, added the insiders. So there were 57 left in the queue. Well, I mean, you wouldn't want to send them away. That would be so sad. Wouldn't want to disappoint them. Sometimes our agreeableness it's not good for us, right? Sometimes you should just say no, which is to all of them, not just the remaining 57. But Blue's road to good time glory didn't come with its fair share of bumps. In the weeks leading up to her tour de force, the Brit was handed a predator for, Freudian slip. In the weeks leading up to her tour de force, the Brit was branded a predator for having hanky-panky with a slew of barely legal youngsters to create only fools content. The reason I don't read these before I share them with you is twofold. I want to have a fresh reaction with you guys. And also, I know that there are a lot of grifters and all kinds of things in this space. So if it's sort of, God, I don't want to use the word raw in this, even next to this paper, but if it's a little more raw, it's easier for you to see the authenticity of who I am and why I do this and that I mean what I say. Barely legal youngsters. Okay. You guys are already thinking what I'm about to say. And that is, imagine it the other way around. She'd be arrested. There wouldn't even be 1,057 because she'd be arrested. She'd be on every single, she'd be on every single news program to beef up the narrative of these predators and you should choose the bear and barely legal youngsters to create only fools content. I'm just like, degeneracy is degeneracy. And it knows no bounds. And it will always push those boundaries, right? And absolutely, definitely a predator. She's using her attractiveness and her feminine wiles, you might say, to lure in not just barely, their youngsters, but just men in general. Because it's not good for the men either. If we're going to go ahead and think of her as a predator, I'll go there. Sorry. I'll go there. It's not good for these men. Who knows? I'm totally flipping the script, you guys. We're not used to thinking of men as victims. We're not allowed to. You guys aren't allowed to be victims because you're always the villain in every narrative. And that's not the case. These women are predators. They're taking your money. They're making you think, the simps, that you have a chance with them. They're using your inert need for companionship, which you generally don't have the option of nowadays, either because no one will look at you because you're a perfectly average man, so you're not over 6 feet tall, you don't make six figures, you don't have all the smooth talk and all the rest of it, or you're so sick and tired of chicks like this and disagreeable ones and angry ones and boss babes and all the rest of it. You've seen what your fathers have been through, your uncles, even your grandfathers. You've seen what's out there. Even you saw what was out there in high school. And you're like, no, thank you. But it doesn't change that you do have that, genuine want for human companionship. It's in all of us. We were made that way. And there are many men suffering from touch starvation. These women are predators going on OnlyFans, luring you in to get you to say, just turn on the computer. No one will know. Just watch a little bit. Evil. Evil. The whole thing is evil. But they always look at the guys like, oh, he's so gross. Oh, he's so this. He watches porn. Excuse me. Who is he watching on that? Who is it that's doing this disgusting stuff? Who's luring in? We need to start holding women accountable for purposely and knowingly causing men to lust. I know, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to. A big thing, sometimes you can point to the movie that sort of started this way we all think. And I would say it's the movie The Accused with Jodie Foster. Because in this movie, she was gang somethinged, and later in the courtroom, she goes on the stand, and the whole thing is like, oh, the prosecutor's like, but what were you wearing? But what about your history? What about all the boyfriends you've had before? And that's why the movie's called The Accused. Because how dare you? How dare you accuse her? She's an innocent victim. Don't ask her about her past. Don't ask her about what she's wearing. Don't ask her about how she was behaving in the bar. Nothing is her fault at all. Really? Are we really going to say that? But yeah, we did. And you can hear it. There's a whole saying you will hear anytime you ask any question like that. Don't blame the victim. Well, I'm not saying in that scenario she's the predator. But if you are wearing clothes that are revealing, if you are doing something that is, sensual on purpose to attract the gaze of men, it's partly your fault for this degenerate society. They want to blame you guys because you're attracted to women. He needs to control his eyes. He needs to control Yeah, well, you need to put clothes on. Anyway, nobody says that though. Not allowed to say that. Men aren't allowed to say it. That's why women need to start saying it. Because we've caused a lot of this. We're the only ones that can undo it. We're the only ones that anyone will listen to. I mean, they'll call me things and whatever, but I can get away with saying a lot more. And I know there are women watching this right now. I know there are. Even if it's a handful, it's so important that you speak up because this is our society and we can't let Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips lead us off a cliff, right? We got to start calling them out, start shaming them. Don't be shamed for shaming. Okay. Wow, I got sidetracked, but it's important. All right, we were at barely legal thingies. Okay. Critics, too, recently rebuked Blue for propositioning a Five Guys cashier. That was her. I saw that clip. She walks up to him and she asks him if he wants to go in the back and have some bedroom fun. And he says, no, I'm a Christian. I'm saving myself for marriage. Oh, and she keeps on trying to convince him. And he stands firm in his conviction. And he's like, nope, nope. Isn't that amazing? I have so much respect for that man. I did not realize this was the same 304. She vowed to give the fast food worker a good rating if he gave in to her raunchy request for mid-shift hanky-panky. I'm so happy that he said no. And can you imagine? She's not used to hearing that word. Good for you, dude. Grossed out onlookers on X said she should be banned from the public. Right on. And unfortunately for Blue, those sentiments were echoed by disgusted TikTok detractors who are less than impressed by her 1,000-man marathon. Yeah, we're done with it. We're done with it. We're not having this anymore. Get rid of this degeneracy. I'm so glad that we can call it out and say, I don't want this degeneracy. I don't want this in society. It's not good for us. And it's not just the Christians that are calling it out. There are even agnostics and atheists and all kinds of people that are like, no, I can see that our society's better off without these things that the Christians call sin. This is so sad, scoffed a naysayer in the comments section. Revolting, barked another. Notice how we detractors sound bad. I don't think even repenting could save her, said an equally stunned observer. It could, but not from public scrutiny. Sorry, that's just how it is. Your reputation's your reputation, and the consequences of your actions will follow you, right? Jesus can save your soul and wipe you clean in his eyes. However, you've done what you've done in society, and we all need to behave accordingly. If somebody had ended, like if some person had ended, a few people, and he repents to Jesus, we're not going to be like, oh, you've repented to Jesus? All right, then come on back to society. No, we're going to be like, no, you stay behind those bars. That's where you need to be. Ugh. Withering hopes for her salvation notwithstanding, Blue seems to be unashamed of her extreme exploits with an S in front of it. Following her 12-hour shag fest, the bombshell shared dirty details of the event, alleging that she welcomed groups of dudes into her bed at one time, likening the sessions to a rotating circle. Okay, yay, you were organized? Blue's controversial coup closely trails that of Lily Phillips, 23, who did this with over 100 men in a day last October. But rather than click her heels over the achievement, an emotional Phillips cried after performing the stunt. Sometimes I feel so robotic, she sobbed. Okay. And that's where the article ends, oddly. I think that it probably was cut to fit, or maybe some things were in there that they didn't want to be in there, like some of Lily Phillips' reaction, where she was sobbing and she was trying to put into words how empty she felt. Now I'm speaking for her. This is just my opinion, right? But I think it's probably accurate. She would never admit it. And you think, why doesn't the shame work on these women? Why can't they be corrected, so to speak. I don't know exactly what it is about our nature, why that's the case. I think we are raised to think it's some type of a weakness, and that if you've ever noticed this will happen, even if it's not, a matter of how many guys they did. But in really anything, when women are sort of caught doing something, even if it was hurting somebody or what have you, you will notice some of us will not want to admit it, not ever apologize, right? I know, God, I've heard from so many men and married men, single men, what have you, that are like, how come they never apologize? You'll even see comedians joking around about it. Like, my wife never says sorry. Actually, one of my favorite comedians, Bargatze is his last name. I can't remember his first name right now. It's one of those days. But he's talking about his wife doesn't say sorry. He just walks around with a sack of sorries all the time, just saying I'm sorry here and there. And it's funny. It's funny because it's true. And that also makes it not so funny. Because so many women have such a hard time saying, I'm sorry. I have a hard time going, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Taking accountability can be a challenge. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. So it's not just the degenerate behavior, but the fact that, say, for example, Lily Phillips is getting shamed. Airbnb, she's facing a ban from Airbnb because of what she did in the Airbnb. She rented an Airbnb to do the 100 dudes, right? And the people who own that Airbnb were like, ew, now they don't want to have people know that. I wouldn't want to stay there, right? She's devalued. She has devalued that Airbnb apartment, the fancy posh apartment flat in London, where Lily Phillips, not the one we talked about today, but the one we talked about today, scooped by getting to the 1,000 guys in 12 hours rather than 1,000 guys in 24 hours. She devalued an apartment by doing that in an apartment. Well, what does she think she did to herself? It's an apartment. You did those things in an apartment. What happened in you? These women are not luring the best, right? These are not, stand up sort of good men. They might also be content creators. A lot of them probably are. But again, I repeat, those are not the best men. But the ability to discern, not a gift the females have. So, I'm sorry for sharing all of that with you. But even though it seems like it's such an extreme, at the end of the day, it's really not. It takes the problems that we're having in society, the problems that you men are having in your marriages, and you men who are trying to date or have decided I'm not gonna date anymore. It takes the problems that you're having and it sort of expands that. It's not different. It's a lack of accountability. It's a lack of shame. It's a lack of decency. It's a lack of self-control on our part. All those things. And it's not that you're meeting chicks that necessarily go to this extreme, but honestly, is it all that different? I don't think you guys would think it is. A lot of you wouldn't think it is. And the other thing I'll say is a lot of these, hopefully not women that have done it to this extreme. However, 100 guys in one day versus 100 guys this past year or the last 5 years or whatever, I don't know that it's all that different to you guys. I don't know that it is. It's probably a little different, but is either one marriage material? No. And that's the word you guys have to keep saying. No. Don't settle. We women have been told this by each other, by our therapists, even by our mothers, even by our fathers. Honey, you deserve the best. Don't settle for anything, right? And you'll hear that from the fathers too. I hope your future man treats you like a queen. No. Hold her accountable. You're not doing her any favors treating her like a queen, honestly. Oh, you guys, you got to keep saying that word no. You got to keep not settling. Like I said, the women have been told, don't settle, blah, blah, blah. Actually, the men need to not settle because the women are not going to correct until they have a reason to. They need to, we've been talking a lot lately in our recent book series about the carrot and the stick that sometimes women use. It's a tactic to make the men do what they want. Well, who can play that game, right? Start using the stick of shame and start using the carrot like, girl, you're not going to have a family, children, settle down, any of that if you participate in this sort of behavior, whether it's an extreme of 100 or 1,000 or whatever number they want to do in 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever it is, whether it's to that extreme or it's just you're a serial monogamist. Well, I thought he was the one, so I did all the things with him. I thought he was the one, so I did all the things with him, and so on and so on and so on. And by the time they're 32 and it's been 10 years, guys are good at math. So keep saying no. It's good. Don't let anyone shame you for saying no. And I'm glad that those of you who have learned to say no and walk away and find your peace aren't. You could give two hoots. If people are like, nah, you're like, that's partly what you walked away for. And good for you. All day long. You won't find this Christian like, stand up, be a man, do the right thing. The right thing is don't reward this degenerate behavior. And included in that degenerate behavior is not just all this pre-wedding shenanigans, but also, what about when she's not happy? Do not support the fact that women can just pull the plug. And men can just pull the plug too. The reason I don't mention them is because generally, y'all don't. You just don't. So, keep protecting your peace. Keep feeding your soul. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.